You're with Pastor Troy right here. We're getting excited. We got a special program for you. You're going to be seeing over the next few weeks until we get ready for season 2. You're going to be seeing the best of the On the Dock season 1. These will be coming at you hard and steady. I want you to get them out there. Check them out. Help us get them out to your friends. We want to see you on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes as well. But this is the best of, get this, the best of season 1. Get ready for it. We're going to be coming at you with a super season 2 coming up this August. We'll see you soon. Enjoy this episode of On the Dock season 1, best of. You're on the dock with Pastor Troy here. We have got the gang around the table. We're locked and loaded for a great episode. And just because Ruth's here at the table with us, she's our co-host for the several episodes coming up, shows we're doing. Ruth, I want to tell you about that song. That is Otis Redding's. It's a rendition of Otis Redding's famous 1967 song. You see the gold album on the wall back here. That's it comes from Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, an old Georgia song about, we're not wasting time. But what it is, Ruth, it's my favorite secular song. My favorite Christian songs is On Christ the Solid Rock, and It Is Well. You see those by the wall, by my office there.
Songs.
Those are my funeral songs. They got them on the wall just so if they forget how to play it, they'll have the music. But this is my secular song because in 1966, about the time I was born, Otis was writing this song. He was in a studio recording it, and 2 minutes and 36 seconds, he got to the second verse. If you ever know the song, he whistles the verse. He sings the verse, does the bridge, the chorus, then goes to the whistle verse. Gets done, turns off, finishes it, stops. They kill the tape. The guy said, "What's up?" He says, "I haven't written the second verse yet." So we're going to go do a gig in Detroit. We're going to come back, and we'll finish this next week in the studio. They went to Detroit, played the gig, died in an airplane crash in Wisconsin, coming back. Never was able to finish this. Instead, they took that track, 2 minutes and 36 seconds, and we have Sitting on the Dock of the Bay went right almost immediately to number 1. And so the reason I have it up there is because when I finish my battle with this world, when the Lord lets me lay down finally, and I get home, they're going to play this at my funeral. It's at the gravesite. They're going to say the Lord's Prayer. Then they're going to start playing this song. And when they get done and they say the Lord's Prayer and that starts whistling, the preacher's going to say, "Y'all need to leave now. Go eat the mastacholi. And let Pastor Troy alone because he is in the kingdom of God." Listen to Otis sing verse 2.
And everyone in our church has heard this story
100 times.
Repeatedly.
Every time. So my husband always makes me lead it as well.
Yep, because you got to be ready for my funeral.
And I'm like, I'm actually not the one to sing at the funeral. I've been told that I'm second in line.
You're back up. You're back up.
I'm back up for Tatum. He has it planned out.
Tatum from
more than
Springfield.
anyone I know. This man has his funeral.
You can sing with her. You
T.
can be backup vocals, and if something happens to Tatum,
he's also like hoping he dies in the plane crash Otis because he has really good life insurance.
I hope I'm not in the plane crash with it. Well,
we are at the end of we live at the end of a runway. At any time, a Cape Airplane could come through here. Ruth came in on Cape Air. At any time,
I'm going back on it too. Now I'm getting feeling
Hey,
his life insurance is worth a lot more.
I got triple coverage. If I die in an airplane crash, you get 3 times the payment.
Which are also our entire
a vehicle's
church
twice.
Knows.
Yeah. So, but it also any kind of plane activity. I don't have to be in the plane. The plane could land on us. So at night here, Southern Illinois University has their flight school. They practice landing and takeoffs here. So there's a really good chance anytime those pilots are in here.
A good
chance. So hey, but guess what? If something happens, I'll be listening to verse 2 because I'm going to ask the Lord to bring Otis. I want to hear what verse 2 would have been. I love that song. So I appreciate it, guys. Hey, and on the dock, we're all about conversations to propel your faith out of the shallows and into the deep. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that great song. It's great. Otis Redding, we love him. I love our version of it too. Yeah, and we got our On the Deck. You can find us. You can find us at our platforms at YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Facebook, Roku, Rumble, Sermonette, and you can social media us. Go ahead and social media us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Telegram. And we would love for you to subscribe. Subscribe. Yeah, I know. Subscribe, hit like, notify, and share. Share those comments and find us and make sure you're connected, because if you're not getting those notifications, you'll miss our regular Tuesday and Thursday distributions. And always, we would love for you to become a Patreon partner. Hey, you get one of these fine On the Dock with Pastor Troy cups and get you some Crown Brew up at Crown Brew. Fill inside it. Got the other Crown Brew glass. I got hot tea in this one, and I got good Crown Brew product over in the other one here. So become a partner of ours. You can do that by going to Patreon and look up On the Dock with Pastor Troy and become a sponsor. That's how we'll get your product here, or become a partner. Become a partner, get one of those coffee cups. And how do you do all this stuff? If you're not sure how to do it, go to onthedock.org. You can find all our platforms on that website, as well as links to our Patreon site. And you can always email us at info@onthedock.org, or watch our embedded player on the dock. We're getting ready to go with that. And we're ready back in studio here. We're in part 3 of a great series. Around the table, I got an incredible, lovely wife, Mother Beth Benetton. Mother Beth.
Whoop, whoop.
Hi, honey.
We got Ruth Jane Subakit.
Nailed it again.
I nailed it. Then I call her Jane for the next 10 minutes, you know.
His
Ruth
head's just
Jane.
growing
I
each time he
know.
pronounces it correctly. He's
I
not gonna be
know.
able to fit
As
out the
long
door.
as
I'm
say
so
it right
proud
on
of myself.
air.
It's honestly the first Thai name I've been able to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I've never been able to call all our Thai people that we work with in Thailand. They all have American names to make our lives better, because their license plates, their license would have to be folded out 12 times.
I mean, this is an American pronunciation of it.
I know.
But that's what I was brought up saying, so that's how I say
On
it.
behalf of
It's almost embarrassing how hard I try to, like, with tonal languages, and how hard I fail.
So Ruth, great picture there of you. Ruth Hells from Harvard College is in here working with us on several of our series, and she is working in this area of understanding sex trafficking and really doing some paperwork and stuff on that at Harvard. And we're just glad to have you at the table with us. So thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and your plane will be fine in the name of Jesus.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
And hey, if it does kind of hit the parsonage, hey, my wife is rich. All right. We're in here on the Mosaic Initiative series, the International Network Part 3. We're going to talk about the international face of, we did the local face already in Part 2. Go back and listen to it. Part 1, we gave kind of an overview, 15,000 feet. We're digging in a little deeper in the international, and we've got at the table across from us, Haley Ottolini. If you're in here and you say Ottolini,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it just depends on where you're from.
She's do this every time, aren't
Yep,
we?
that's right. That's what we do. Founder and executive director of the Mosaic Initiative. Great lady. And she is doing great work. She works for Community Faith Church as well as our creative arts director. Did a lot of the web design for On the Dock and our graphics design as well. So we appreciate her work, but she's here for another reason. She's our guest. Haley, we know that you're married. We know you got 2 beautiful kids, a husband that you share with me, because I love her husband. He's my worship
Seem to
pastor.
share him with, like, a lot of men.
I mean,
has the
listen,
most
Ben and I
bromances
are
of anyone I've
knitted
ever
together
met.
at the heart, like Jonathan and David. I just love Ben. He is my worship partner
a good
on the
guy.
platform. I'm the pastor and he's the worship pastor, so we work closely together. I really appreciate him. He helped design this set. But Haley is the focus here today. Haley, I just want to know, you're a mother of 2. You've got work at the church. You've got this huge passion for the Mosaic work you're doing. You've traveled all over the world. But this picture here, look at this picture. This doesn't look like all over the world. This looks like someplace in Illinois.
Yeah.
Where are you at in this picture?
Yeah. So there's I don't know if they're an actual organization or not, or just like a collective.
Well, they gave you $9,600.
Yeah,
That's a
so
lot of
there's
money
a-
for a collective people.
So there's like this newer thing. It's been around for a little while. It's called 100 Women Who Care. And it's
that.
been happening all over the nation, where 100 women out of, like, particular counties get together and they nominate their favorite, like, philanthropic organization. They choose from, each
Love it.
group does it differently. This group, it was the very first time that we've had it here in Williamson County. So cool. Allison Hausler, I think she's probably one of your guests on the podcast at some point.
Yeah.
She's a boss babe, like, just a definition of one. I look up to her so much. You don't want to get in between that woman and what she wants to get done, because it's going to get done.
Praise God.
Yeah, she's amazing. So she started this with several other women to bring it to Williamson County. And what you do is you pledge before you go. Like, I went and I also had pledged $100 to whatever organization would be awarded it. So they like did a bingo thing. You come in and everybody gets a chance to nominate a nonprofit.
And you don't know where it's going to go?
No idea.
So you won
that's
this?
It's so fun. Yeah, it's so fun. So they bingo it. You get three organizations, and then each 3 they have someone presenting on it. So when you nominate, you can say who you want to speak for you, or you have to speak on behalf of that organization. So I had no idea. I went into this thinking we're like brand spanking new. Like, even if I get one nomination that like I bribe my friend to come with me to like give, like I'll be happy, you know?
Yeah.
And like I've always been in love with all philanthropic things. So I was super excited to go and kind of like network with people. So I had no concept of like actually being nominated, but I thankfully prepared just on the off chance. I was like, well, like trying to do the math, thinking of like what the percentage of chance was. And I was like, like I should probably just like prepare a little bit. And I'm really glad I did, because we had 5 minutes and each person had to present.
You had to give your elevator pitch.
Yeah, and then they vote.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So then they vote.
Wow.
And it was like, I have to be honest, I'm really glad that we were nominated in the first group, because now I'm like, don't have to worry about it as much. But like, I'm so nervous. I'm not a nervous person. Anyone who knows me, I'm not shy, like even remotely. Like I think on all of the personality tests, I score like 100% on the extroversion scale.
Okay, Haley's wired like me. There's people that are nervous, and there's people that get people nervous. We are people that get people
probably
nervous.
A little intimidating in the right
we
setting.
We cause other people to have nerves.
Yeah, we're just really direct.
Yeah,
Yeah. My husband, he's like the anchor for me. Like I'm fiery. I probably should have been born like a redhead. Very passionate, very direct.
Your husband is Beth in our relationship.
I'm a hammer.
Yeah, you're me. Y'all are backwards. So
yeah, for sure. We all need a Beth.
Yeah.
Or I mean, Beth is the anchor of this church,
chill.
because I
She's
see her
chill.
when she needs to just start shaking her head at you from like.
She's the only
the front
person who can get a
row.
hold of me. She's
the only one that can reel him in. Yeah.
So you won $9,600.
Yeah, we won.
Okay, all I want to
It was
know
crazy.
is the next time you go, you got to take Mother Beth, because she's got to get Hands of Hope into this. My goodness.
Oh, no.
Hands of
House of Hope, any of the organizations we work with. But honestly, it was just an honor to be a part of like.
So this is Christian Blessing Lottery. I love it.
I don't even know that it was just Christian organizations. It was just anyone, but it was like, it was
what
crazy.
A cool deal. Well, thanks for sharing.
And what's cool was Allison was actually the nomination. So she like was running it, and she ended up pulling her own name as like the first one, and it ended up being us, and that was like really cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, it actually ended up being, I think, $9,900. And then we just did the second one, and they got like $10,400.
Well, we need to get 100 women around here and talk to them about what we're doing here. You got it on the dock. They could use it. We could use that. Listen, okay, give us just real quick. Give us the quick overview again, the Mosaic Initiative, and we'll get into our discussion.
Yeah. So as I said, the last time too, the best way to describe it is our whole purpose is to combat sex trafficking and exploitation globally, locally and globally. We work domestically and internationally, and we'll probably get into that a little bit more now, but we do that through a variety of ways, but mainly trying to equip others and really empower others.
And then redefine for us from your website what you're doing about, we're focusing in not on human trafficking, but a subset, sex trafficking.
Specifically sex trafficking.
When we say sex trafficking, what do we mean?
So any form, and I mean, outside of just trafficking, but also just like exploitation and abuse, any form of exploitation for the purpose of like a sexual nature. So, I mean, we really focus on that the sexual component of that, because it is a different form of trauma, and it's specific and it's rampant. So, it's one of those things that really needs addressed in a lot of areas. So.
Okay, so Haley, I was digging in your website. We're focusing on the international stuff. So your website says that we've been busy. I put this up on the screen. Yeah. We've been busy building international partnerships. Currently, have growing relationships with organizations in 7 countries. Yeah. I've got programs going on with 3 countries right now. Can't do anything other than talk to them by Zoom now because of COVID. We can't go to Thailand. Be an
interesting episode.
Ruth would love to be. Ruth would be in Thailand talking to our partners directly there about what we're doing. I'd be with you, Ruth. I would have gone with you and met you there.
We would have just flown there.
We would have gone there. I would
have
been there in January and July. That's when I go every year. I haven't had a 4th of July in this country for like 8, 9, 10 years because we go there every 4th and every January. We have spent at least 5 years in the air on New Year's Eve, flying over in Cathay Pacific, middle of the air.
Airline. That's how I get home from college.
It's easy to get over in Cathay. Cathay's really cheap on New Year's.
Yeah.
I need to write this down. This needs to be my
That's literally the airline I take to get from college to Singapore.
We stayed in Macau one year right after New Year's Eve was over. It's much cheaper to stay in Macau the New Year's Day next night than the night of before that. They were sold out.
Imagine,
yeah, it was so cheap. It was like, there's nobody.
I don't even remember what flights I've been on to Thailand. I just know that they were very long.
They're very,
Like,
very.
I
It's
had
a long way to
one,
go.
I think, at one
Yeah,
point.
anytime you eat 3
Isn't that
meals,
one of the longest
sleep,
flights,
and,
I think.
yeah,
Yes.
Outside of
Africa,
Australia,
Africa
right?
flight's about 8, 9, 10 hours down.
There's a direct Singapore to New York that's 18 hours.
I
think.
saw that. It's the
That
longest.
has to be the longest.
It's
in
one of
the
the
world.
longest
It
flights
is.
that one of the planes make right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
I mean, I've
it was
done-
the longest for a long time. I don't
When
know
you
if it
eat,
still
look,
is.
guys, when you eat 3 meals on a plane and at least 3 full meals, maybe even 4 and a snack, the plane, when you get off the plane, it's trashed.
When you can take an Ambien,
2.
2 Ambiens during a flight.
That was too loud. That wasn't supposed to be.
I take a half.
Too long.
I take a half, eat my meal, go back to sleep. I tell them I don't want the snack.
It's an Troyan is like Ambien, and the things that he doesn't know that he does on Ambien is like probably one of our church's favorite conversations.
Yeah, I have about killed myself with
needs it.
Oreo.
Troy's like me. We like have to be going at all times, and so
I
don't
only
think
use
he could
Ambien when I
sleep
do my
unless
overseas
he-
trips to
yeah.
get you regulated quickly. It's
my
really
dad
good.
said that it was really cool because you had a very specific routine every night, and it was to call Mama Beth
Yeah.
or take your Ambien, call Mama Beth, and probably fall asleep while on the phone.
While I
Yes.
talk to her,
Every
many times the phone's left open in Africa. You know, take my
then
shower,
snore.
take my
I have
Ambien.
pictures of him sleeping on a FaceTime.
Yeah. I
That's
do
so
that.
cute,
I do
though.
that because I do that because I can relax and finally talk to her and I can de-stress.
Yeah,
all
it's
good.
like a nighttime routine. I like it.
Addison even knows.
All right, you girls, back to this. You're busy building international partnerships, currently have growing relationships when you can, not due to
Yeah.
COVID, and due to the restricting nature of the past year, it's been a little challenge. Tell us about what you've got in the future works. Hopefully,
Yeah.
hey, right now to go to Thailand, you have to go check into the Marriott Bangkok for 14 days, $2,300, and sit there locked in a jail cell called the
Yeah.
Marriott. You don't get to enjoy any of the facilities. You sit in your room before
They
you can
deliver
be,
every meal to your
they
door.
deliver
They
$2,300. It's just not worth
Awful.
it for us
Even
to go.
if you have a
Ruth.
negative test.
Even if you have a negative test,
Everywhere in
doesn't
Asia
matter.
right now,
Doesn't
that's what you
matter.
gotta do.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's just not. I can't take a team over right now and spend 14 days doing nothing. If you've had the vaccine, they cut it to 10, I think. But still, that you can't do that. So there'll be a time soon when we can travel again. In the meantime, Zoom works great. Our
Yeah.
leadership's great. But tell me what you're looking at doing. You've got something about Peru, Runasimi.
Yeah.
And
So-
tell us what's going on.
So this has been like a really interesting year to start a nonprofit. Like it obviously we didn't plan on any of this happening.
No.
It's been like obviously like I think we've all learned a lot in this last year in different ways, and you either take opportunities to like grow or you stay sitting and you can get overwhelmed and you know there's definitely been challenges with it. Like I think like we were primarily focused on our international ministries because that's kind of been my heart since I was a child. I dreamed of being a mission. I read the book Bruchko by Bruce Olson. I don't know why specifically this, but I remember him like vomiting up the tapeworm and all this stuff. He's like crazy. He's trying to like go into this. He was trying to do ministry with an unreached people group, and I just remember him being like, he loved this group so much that he like was willing to do anything to get the gospel to them and like share Jesus with them, and it was just really inspiring.
Amazing.
And so my heart's always been for international like people groups. And like specifically unreached groups. Not that there aren't unreached groups here in the U.S.
Same here.
But I've just had such a heart for like the global church because I think that's like what heaven. Like I cry every time I think about heaven being this like conglomerate of every nation and tongue like praising the Lord, and like what a beautiful thing. So I mean, from the beginning, I wanted to be a missionary to India since about 4th grade, and so this whole thing is really internationally focused, and COVID was actually a blessing in that because I think it kind of made me step back and look at the opportunities we had locally.
Right.
Networking is probably one of my favorite things, and one of like probably my better skill sets is like if I had one leadership skill that was really like helpful to me, it was probably be like to make connections and to connect other people to other people. And that's kind of why I like started this. So it's been hard like not being able to do that in person. Because I think, especially internationally, making connections always work better in person. I remember showing up to India. I had planned it out like 3 months before I got there, and like mentioned to this person that we had one of the whole purposes we had been there was to go and visit the shelter. And he was like, "Oh, you're still wanting to do that?" And you're like, "Yeah, that was like the purpose
That's what
of
I'm here
this
for.
trip."
Right.
Yeah. And that's how it goes, internationally. And I loved it. Like, it was like, but we kind of show up thinking, God's going to do something crazy. He's going to like suddenly be like, oh yeah, my brother does this thing or does that or something. And like suddenly makes a connection. And then be like, yeah, why don't we just like take a 3-day drive and go do that? And you're like, sure. Okay, cool. Whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how it happens. It's really hard to foster that online. So, so, I mean, we have like beginnings of partnerships happening all over the world. But the one that I was talking about with Peru, we have like a really unique opportunity with them. One of my best friends, I call him mi hermano because he's my brother. I think we maybe have done like a weird blood pact or something at one point. He is an indigenous person of Peru. His testimony is incredible. His dad was, I think, a martyr there in Peru, but they were missionaries, but they were doing ministry to with their own people group there. He started the group Runasimi. I think it was his grandfather maybe that started it. It's like 40 years old. And they've been doing ministry with their indigenous people group for a long time, and they have really good connections there. And so when I was about 17 years old, I went to a missionary training like camp, which sounds like kind of like a cult if you just like listen to the sound of it. But basically what you did was you would go into this simulated village, completely self-sustained, and lived with like 20 other people and learned how to live in a developing nation. So we raised our own animals, butchered them. We learned, cross-cultural communications, how to teach primary health without coming in as like especially this like savior mentality, and like talked a lot about the harm that has happened through in the past, and like all of those different things. And so I actually met him there, and we lived in this village with like latrines that were made of like palm leaves. We walked around barefoot with our machetes every day, and there is no way to like grow like that close to like a person like that's not your family than that situation. We couldn't leave for the first month to create that like separation anxiety. We didn't like couldn't use our cars. We didn't have phones. We got mail once a week. So like to really create like that experience. So we got really close.
Yeah, I bet.
And we were really bored a lot of the time. So you just talk and you get to be really close, and he became my brother. So when I'm thinking about doing like international ministry and stuff, I'm really particular about wanting to make sure that we're investing in groups that when problems arise, not if, but when, I have people I can trust on the ground that are going to handle that in a way that I would, or that I think is of high character and qualities. Like even when we set up our board, before I did anything else, I just wrote down the qualities and characters that I wanted people to have. So we have this really cool opportunity with Runasimi because they create all the literature, the Quechua literature. They have a radio station there too. And there's pretty much from what we know of, no like prevention happen, like no sex education, and very little like trafficking awareness happening there right now. So it's this huge opportunity to grow.
Is Peru a hot spot for
trafficking right now? Yeah, especially with indigenous groups. Like we talked about this a little bit before, but any marginalized community, they're higher risk. And especially with the Quechua people, like from my understanding, and I could be misspeaking, and so like if you're part of this people group, feel free to correct me in the comments. I would love that. I think a lot of them don't actually speak like they speak their tribal tongue, but not all of them speak Spanish too. So they'll promise like kids and women, etc., jobs in the city, but it's a false promise of a job, which happens a lot internationally. It's like what we see a lot.
So what
Either
happens?
Parents knowingly sell their kids into things, or they get like kind of duped by like an auntie in the village that says, hey, I have this job for your kid.
This looks a lot like we'll talk about this in one of the series, but A Love Betrayed. The movie that's put out by CBN.
The one you sent me.
CBN, Thailand, and YWAM, Thailand. Look it up on YouTube.
Yeah,
it's
you
called
see
A Love
that a
Betrayed.
lot with small villages. Like this seems
Thai,
to be a
but English
commonality.
subtitled. You need to watch it. It's exactly the same kind of thing, where it's kind of a flim flam thing. So that's happening in Peru as well.
So I think it's really easy to displace them, and then they don't really know. Especially, also it's like a different culture. There's a Quechua in the mountains, and I believe like even in the jungles and stuff. And so there's like a lot of you take people who were in a more like enclosed community and you bring them to the city, it's very easy to isolate them, which is like one of the main steps in the grooming process.
They're completely out of
their element.
Yeah, and they maybe have never left their community, culture, technology, and they're dependent.
It's very easy. Like, so everything that traffickers do, like, and this is the one commonality you'll see, every situation is completely different, you know. There are some like patterns that we see a lot, but the one commonality is they do everything that they do to achieve, and with air quotes, consent. So like, it's not real, like and we talk about that a lot, like because it's coerced, it's not really truly consent, but they'll do anything they can.
Let me get clarified on that, because I think when I watch The Love Betrayed, and when I talk about, okay, Ruth's here, and Ruth's focusing in on sex trafficking in Thailand, and in Thailand they do some very similar things where the recruiters will go out into the village, they'll recruit a family, and basically they, for a down payment or a dollar, they sell their children to the opportunity to get a bigger job or to get, and so the kids
send money home.
They send money home. They take the kids. The job's not what they thought it was at all. They may never hear from the child again. It's like a recruiter with nothing on the other side. When it happens, the consent here is not the consent necessarily the one being sold into trafficking. The consent here is a parent or a parent, a mother or father saying, I consent to you taking this child to this opportunity.
Right.
And a lot of times the parent thinks they're maybe doing the child a service and helping their family, but it ends up being, so are you talking about the consent?
And maybe not consent, but like, I've had too much coffee. Compliance is a better word.
Okay.
I probably misspoke.
Sorry.
To clarify. Not consent, but compliance. Compliance is a much better term. Sorry about that.
But in the Thai side, the consent comes from the parents.
Yeah, because
it's
not truly like consent either. Like it is compliance is what it is.
But then the kid feels like, well, I don't want to shame my parents. I don't want to shame my household.
Shame goes
and so
really
they
far.
become compliant in the consent of the parents. So,
and it's like, especially in cultures where like debt means, I think it's harder to understand maybe in our culture where we're used to just like credit, like it's different. Like it's an honor based culture. So it's like if you owe someone something, you are indebted to them for a long time. It's a cultural thing too.
What I want to impact is in our culture, Beth says, I consent to this. It would be like whatever Beth gets into, she agreed to do it. So, but we're not talking about that kind of consent.
No. We're talking about like, I think everything that there's a process called grooming, and it obviously looks different in every situation. Like it can be force, threat of force, which is like usually what people think of, but most of the time, especially here in the US, it changes obviously depending on the situation, but you see like coercion, fraud, deceit, like all of those things are also used.
And it can be deceit.
And
it could be all, the flashy lights.
Could be they might use a combination of all of those things,
right?
But it's the whole purpose of all of it is to achieve that compliance and to break the psyche so that they're not fighting against the person and they can just exploit them.
Compliance would be consent, but consent without the knowledge of what really is being expected. So it's almost a deceived consent.
And I misspoke when I said consent. That was a bad one for me.
No, but I see the consent though. I see in that movie I watch. I see other. Well,
I think that's where the shame comes in too. Is like I think that a lot of times survivors will feel like the shame or like responsibility because they feel like they consented when it wasn't.
Yeah,
it was compliance, but it wasn't
consent. Both the parent
consent.
and the victim.
Yeah,
both.
It was coercion. The way that they got there wasn't truly true consent. You know, like
so for people listening, let me see if
it was psychological manipulation.
Right. Let me see if I can give a metaphor because I'm a Southern Illinois dude, and I've got Haley, I've got Ruth here, both that understand this world a little bit better than I do. But let me for the guys that are listening, for people in Southern Illinois, this would be for me it's not take the sex out of it, sexual exploitation. So we know over here we're dealing with sex, but over here we have something similar in our culture. When you're a young athlete, and I played ball, my kids played ball, and the local recruiter for the local university somewhere gets wind that the kid can play. and they come flying in on their plane. They come in, and they meet you and go, hey, we'd like you to come to our university. We're the best university. We're going to take really good care of you. And they meet with the parents and they meet with the coaches. They begin to talk to you about the free education and all the things you're going to get and the people you're going to meet. And they even fly you out, maybe, and give you a little sample. They give you the whole, they take you around. You have the party of a lifetime. And then eventually they say the student signs, or the parents go, let's sign this. Let's consent to go. The student gets there. Sometimes they get a great education. They play the game. They become great. But there's a lot of people out there that some sports recruiter sells them something that's not true. They get there, the kid's asked to do steroids, the kid's asked to play hurt, the school grades mean nothing. They just want you to play football or then play baseball. I think we see that in our own culture. If you could just take somebody that's been poorly recruited, they've been given the flash and the sizzle, but not really the substance. Now take that to somebody coming in and recruiting your daughter, your son, to take them to a place, to give them an opportunity for education, the opportunity to have a good job. And you hear that as a parent going, oh, they're going to get a good job. They're going to get out of the country. They're going to get into the city. They're going to make some money back. They're going to be able to send us some money back. They'll be better. We'll be better.
It could even mean like education for the other children that you have.
Right. It feels like
it feels like this like awesome like gift from God, this opportunity, and they sell it like snake oil.
It's like there you go. It's like a win-win. Everybody's going to win. Yeah. And what happens is everybody loses.
Yeah. And when you have a village mentality like that, you trust you'll see aunties or whoever in the village will have like a point person. And so like of course they're going to trust them. They don't know
and they don't know how to do the back. Ruth, how do you check and vet these things? What are you seeing, and how do you vet these opportunities so that they don't get you and trick you?
Who is the you in this situation?
Well, I mean, you as a parent, you want your best for your kid. The recruiter comes in and says, hey, they got this real job in the city. They've got this real opportunity. We'll get you education money.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem is that a lot of people in these situations don't have the resources to do that vetting. And I think, like, as you were giving your example, the example that I was thinking of is like, actually, I don't know if this will be controversial, like Army recruitment in the US, where they go into high schools and like prey on people who think they have no other options. They know you're not going to go to college otherwise. You're from a low income family. This will bring honor to you, your family. Yeah. When in reality, that's not always what you get out of it. You put yourself in danger. You don't always get the benefits that you're promised, and
you're going to have 13 weeks of hell as you go through basic training.
Yeah, you're putting your life in danger,
and it may be the right decision. And we're not knocking any of these recruiting.
No, we have a lot.
But it can all be used for evil if it's not fully communicated.
Exactly, and it's preying on vulnerability. It's people who think they have no other options, and someone's telling them this is the only way for you to get out of this situation, and they don't know what else is out there. They don't know how to tell whether this is a good deal or not.
Not being honest about the real cost, the possibilities.
And you're thinking you're providing, like, I mean, as a parent, like, you understand it now. Like, I understand it so much more now that I have children, of like, you would do anything.
Yeah.
To provide your kids with, like, this could mean that better. Like, like your kid could, like, maybe you're like, you don't know the situation. It's just can change, but like, if this means, oh, my child might have an education and my other children might be able to go to school and afford uniforms, because sometimes they can't even afford the uniform to go to this school. Right. Or, maybe their sister or brother's already laying bricks. Like, there's just like so much to it. And it's not like just like, oh, they're uneducated. It's like it's a lack of, you said resource, or if you're not exposed to
it. And there's also, I think you mentioned, Ruth,
and it's no fault of their own. It's just like, they've been sold this dream.
A cultural thing too. Like, everyone else has done this,
that,
and there's a respect. It's an adult talking,
or there's a pressure from, if you live in a village where everyone goes to work at this factory, and obviously it's like exploitative. I think, if you talk to someone from IJM who works in like India, you would hear a lot about this. Yeah. But, bad things can happen if you choose not to do this.
Absolutely.
Or you'll lose out on other opportunities in the future, so on and so forth.
So what it comes down to is people are exploited here because they're given a picture of what could be rosy out here, but not really the ability to go look at it.
Yeah.
And they're actually, there might be shame if they do, or they have to acknowledge that they don't know everything. And so I guess let me just give you a modern example here, because Beth and I, we have two daughters, and I don't mean to be sexist, girls. I do check out things on my sons, but I mean, daddy's girls are daddy's girls. I mean, in a positive way. I think I'm just saying that. And so one of my daughters just got a job way away from here. And listen, when she got the job, it's an exciting job. I'm excited for her. But as you looked at some things, there were some things that set some alarms off in the process of her getting the job. There was a poor callback plan. And well, it was all answered by the guy who was sick and had pneumonia. But
my dad's the same way.
As I looked deeper into it, there were 9 misspellings on a letter of recruitment to her. There were bad graphics on it. And at one point in time, I'm looking at Beth going, I don't know if this organization out in Timbuktu, 1,500 miles from here, is even real. Maybe she shows up and she disappears and she's a victim of, look, I work with sex trafficking in Thailand. Yeah. My blonde daughter is sitting someplace in somebody's harem around the world someplace, all because we sent her off to somebody that cannot spell or type, and they run a marketing company, and they're a H&R company for many organizations, and they can't spell, write, or type things correctly. And so it triggered some things enough for me to call, hello, I'm a pastor from so-and-so, and I'm giving a recommendation for a job. Is this person real? So I called around circles. I called Better Business Bureaus. I called tourism places. Yeah. I found out it's all real, all great. I found out that the typos had a result to do because it's an Australian company and everything they mistyped is Australianly spelled. English, Australian spelled differently.
That's funny.
Everything was alleviated in my fears.
Right. Yeah. And you're coming from a situation where you're fully aware that this is a possibility. You have access to the internet. You have connections. Like, imagine how difficult that would be.
But if you're in the backside of Liberia, the backside of Pursuit, you're in northern Karat in Thailand, what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, I called a lot of places and I got my answers, but I have to say this to you, parents, we have got to be more vigilant about checking this stuff out. And if you don't have the resources, you got to find places that do. Yeah. Figure out before you make that decision to send a child blind off someplace, we've got to go see it, go with them.
And I think having a lot of you can protect children through monitoring to a degree, but it's never fully going to do it. It is it's. So I have this thing that I put up on our site a lot. It's open, honest, and often. It's conversations you need to have with your kids starting from a young age appropriately. Teach consent. My daughter, if you ask her right now, I say every day, who's in charge of your body? I am.
So repeat the acronym again.
I just said open, honest, and often is typically my rule, because I think parents get really, like you said, there's a lot of fear based around trafficking, and there's a lot of misinformation, and we have it kind of this movie idea of what trafficking is in our head,
right?
And we try to protect against that, but we're missing the neighbor that's grooming our child,
right?
And so what it is it's just I think I can't oversell the idea of having these conversations about sex with your kids. It should start with start talking about consent and things when they're really young, because if you're not creating this culture that's culture in your home from a young age, it's going to be really awkward when suddenly you realize you're they're 13, which honestly, this is controversial, but honestly, that's way too late.
It's way, no, it is way too late.
It is too
way too late.
And honestly,
I see that more and more in the church. It is awkward. It's super awkward.
It is.
But it's important. And we have really, and this isn't to say if you haven't started, it's beyond hope and you're,
no,
because
get started.
But because of my job, I learned, I had to do this young with my kids. We use all the anatomically correct terms.
Yes.
My kids have no problem. We have more of a problem of we have to learn what's
where
appropriate.
Not to say it. Yeah.
So don't you're not allowed to ask someone if they have a penis. That's just the way that it is. And that's actually true stories from what's happened in our church with my son going up to the greeting desk and telling them what body parts he has. But
you're learning those. That's something to share.
We are really specific.
There shouldn't be shame in that.
If I'm it's kind of funny right now because I'm relearning some of the things, because even as direct and outspoken as I am, there have been situations I've been in that have been really hard to speak up of what I'm comfortable with. Whether it's a relative kissing me on the forehead and I'm super uncomfortable. I was conditioned my whole life to accept those things.
Right.
And my daughter, I've been working really hard with my daughter and my son to learn they have a voice and they're allowed to say no, and also to learn to listen. And a thing that we repeat a lot at our house is, I respect your no. So even with tickling, I'll tickle Zion. If she says stop, I immediately stop.
Yes.
And she says, no, I don't. Okay. So you tickle me, mommy, like this. And so now she'll tell me to do it.
Right.
Yeah. And I've seen a big change in like her attitude, and like even that she's 3 years old. And even in like the last year, like she's gotten a lot more like empowered of like, if someone asks her for a hug or kiss and she doesn't want to give it, she'll just be like, she'll say, no, thank you.
Right.
And she'll walk away.
Right.
I love that.
And really I love it because she does. She has this voice that I wasn't, you know.
As adults, we don't.
No fault of my parents, but like that was just the way, like the culture, you know, like let your aunt, don't be rude,
level.
Hug your auntie, like, you know,
Exactly.
things that made you uncomfortable, you were supposed to like, and while it seems so like minuscule, I think it's really important to start having those conversations, because by the time, you know, like the culture I grew up in, like rural Midwest, it was really uncomfortable to talk about sex with your parents.
Sure,
like, no one wants to talk about that with their parents.
No, we don't. No, don't.
But also, if you suddenly just bring it up one day, it's obviously going to be awkward. But you have to create this culture. But the world is going to teach them
their way, and their world is not even natural. So it's going to be stuff that's unrealistic. And don't let them be trained in this with porn and stuff like that. What a crazy world.
Even like talking about safe sex, I think that's like something that the church really like is afraid of. Like even with teenagers, like not to say
abstinence only education mindset.
Yeah, like I think, you know, we need to have these conversations, because it's not like, I mean, if you're realistic, you know that most teenagers are like probably having sex. Like it's good to at least tell them how to protect themselves in those situations if they're going to make those decisions.
Well, I think we need to teach everybody to be responsible.
Everyone be responsible.
Everybody be responsible and understand. And I think to avoid that to avoid that conversation is really just damaging. You're going to let the world set the agenda. We as parents, we as leaders and parents, our husbands, we need to not be scared of those conversations. Yeah. We need to be the ones that broach those subjects. So when there is a problem, there won't be shame.
It's not. It's not uncomfortable for them to come and tell you.
Tell you right there. Right. I agree.
And when you're having these conversations, that's when you're going to notice these things. Like one of my dear friends had, unfortunately, her husband was abusing his daughter, her stepdaughter, and it was through just like a innocent conversation that she figured this out. And you know, it ended up being 3 generations of abuse and sexual abuse that had been going on. And so it's really important to have those conversations, because if she hadn't had those conversations, she wouldn't have been able to find that out. Right. But also, like, it's there, and we put this up on our website, the mosaicinitiative.org, and you can sign up for our resources. We immediately send you a whole list of resources. And number one thing that we send is a child advocacy child advocacy center, because if you have thoughts, or you're having, like, maybe there's an allegation, you're concerned about your child, that's the absolute best place to take them.
So I put your website up. Where will they find that again?
That know how to ask questions that aren't leading to children, and so they can really get to the bottom of it, and they see so much of it that they're able to figure out what's going on.
Tell the website. I've got the website up.
It's the mosaicinitiative.org.
And you can go there and find that resource.
Yeah.
And where is it again on the website?
It should just be like immediately should pop up as an option to subscribe to our emails, and we'll immediately send you that. But otherwise, it's on our resource page. Excellent. But if you just look up child advocacy centers near you, if you do have a disclosure of abuse, first place you should go. Also on our resource list, we have like suggestions on parents and how to like respond to disclosures, and you know, never in anger or anything like that. And it's just a really helpful tool. But yeah, it's just open, often honest conversations with your kids. It's going to do way more than just monitoring online presence.
Now let's go back for a second, and so we wrap up this podcast. What do you see happening? Just give me the next steps with your international work.
Yeah, so you know, so my friend that I told you about, his name's Tawa. I love him a lot. He is actually the president now of this organization. So we've been in a lot of conversations recently. There's a lot changing for him and his organization, so we're kind of moving forward slowly. But my dream would be to have like a vocational training center there as a way for women to leave sex work if they're wanting to, a place to, you know, empower them, and to also start getting resources out to he has good relationships with all the chiefs there. It's a large indigenous group, but there's like different like chiefs over different areas, and so he has probably this particular group is going to have like the best impact, because one, it's their own people. Like, how do we empower them to teach their own people and educate and prevent these things? And then, like down the road, maybe it'll grow it more from that. But we'd really like to create a vocational training center that creates some sort of residual income for that. So yeah, I mean, that's a goal. And I think we really it's a very large people group, and to have that opportunity, I just think it could grow really, really large and impact a lot of lives.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get us eventually back into Thailand. I hope you'll go back with us to Thailand. I want to get you. I want to get you in Thailand to work with our churches and our pastors there at Community Faith Church Thailand. Check those churches out. They are vibrant churches. They're all working out of the sex trafficking industry. They're all tangential to it. Whether they're our slum churches that are byproducts of people that are abused and left out there, or whether it's our churches in the sex trafficking zones that are working with girls and lady boys that are recovering from being used in that industry. Some of our pastors are directly from the sex trade industry, and they've been trained. And I look forward to getting maybe you guys connected down the road with what Tamar's doing, what Hand to Hand's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
We look forward. We're gonna have Haley come back when we do our Tamar series, and Ruth as well, and get a chance to know some of those people overseas. And one of these days, eventually, we'll get to go to travel there without having to stay 14 days in the Marriott Bangkok.
Yeah, I think the goal ultimately is when we can travel a little bit more is building that online network so that they can communicate with each other and start creating resources from that. But until we can travel, we're kind of a lot of these groups are kind of at a standstill themselves because
they are frozen. They're really tough.
And so
right
it's
now.
hard to really grow partnerships when they don't even really know what their next year looks like. Right. So I mean, it's something that we look forward to, and it's the beating heart of the Mosaic Initiative.
And I know a lot of you guys are thinking, we're going to wrap up this episode. I know you're thinking, Haley's like, well, we can do this online. The problem is, Hands of Hope, Community Faith Church, we don't recommend anybody to you. We don't do things that we can't go on the ground and see what's happening.
Yeah,
that we can't know the people
partner,
and the quality. We're not recommending some Sally Struthers thing. Nothing against Sally, but some organization with a face over here. We don't do anything that we don't know the people. When you meet people from the different ministries we work with,
I want to see it on the ground.
There's not a ministry this church supports that we haven't been on the ground with them. Don't know the person. I haven't vacationed with. I know their character, their quality. We just don't send money to blank. We send money to people that are our partners. And I mean partners in the trenches together. So it's hard for us. It's hard for Haley's ministry to vet people right now in this time. Yeah. Ruth would be in Thailand working with trafficking stuff right now, but she can't get there.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have to be a little patient, but I will talk about this you're going to come back for the roundtable. It's going to be so good. But in the roundtable, we're going to talk about what's going on because of COVID. There is a blessing to the sex work industry in Pattaya, Thailand, because there's not much going on right now. So we'll talk about that next episode, but there is still stuff happening. But we're going to come back. Let me just tell you, you can find more about the Mosaic Initiative. Haley Ottolini is the executive director and founder. You can email her at connect@themosaicinitiative.org. Website's themosaicinitiative.org. And you can donate by clicking on their donate link, get involved. You can go to that resource page, talk about it, and get more details.
We even have some books on there for even as young as toddlers of no means no, stuff like that. Some suggestions that I've gotten from psychologists and from forensic interviewers and things like that.
Equip your kids to succeed and not be victims.
Equip yourself as an adult. I think it will take away a lot of the fear. I think there's a lot of fear-based parenting happening, and not to say that you want to be careful and use discernment, and I struggle with that a lot, seeing all that I've seen,
it's a lot of la. You put your fingers and you hope if you don't talk about it won't happen, but it's there. You want to
empower your children, and I hope that some of these resources will make you feel empowered, and learning what trafficking is will take away some of that fear of some stranger in a white van coming to take your children, but give you the empowerment of no, I can, this is how I teach
awareness,
my kids.
Empowerment. You said open,
and how I can love them best through it, because maybe, and I hope this isn't the case, but maybe you'll learn that that's something that's ongoing, happening right now, and then you can help your child in that and kind of get them, kind of work protect
with
them in the way that you can.
So also, she's got a page at the Facebook page at the Mosaic Initiative. Check all that out. You want to come back? Our signature, it's a signature thing, Ruth. On the dock, we always have a big roundtable discussion. We have all been making notes. Haley's been talking and telling us all kinds of stuff, but it's now our turn to throw. All of us can throw questions at her, and then we can also put our 2 cents in and see what we see. So come back in our next episode of On the Dock and be a part of the Mosaic Initiative roundtable Roundtable Discussion Part 4. And we just want to remind you that we'd love to have you. Haley, good job again. Thank you for sharing what you're doing with Mosaic internationally. Thank you, Ruth, Mother Beth, for being my incredible co-host. And you can join us at onthedoc.org, get more information, embedded player, links to our platforms, as well as information on how to support the show and stuff. You can also email us at info@onthedoc.org with any questions. Always find us on our platforms, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Facebook, Roku, Rumble, and SermonNet. You can get to Roku, go to Roku, download the SermonNet app, and look for the On the Doc with Pastor Troy channel. All of our channels are On the Doc with Pastor Troy. We'd love to hear from you on Facebook, social media, Facebook that way, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitter. We don't mind critical stuff and real things. Share your stories with us. If you need help, reach out to us. We'd love to get you connected to those resources. If you forgot those websites, just email us. Donna, our executive producer at On the Doc, would be glad to remind you of those things, either through social media or through our email. And once you find our platforms, please hit subscribe, like, notify, and share so other people can learn what we're learning here today. Haley's helping us get out of the shallows and into the deep and off that dock and out into things of God. Make sure, hey, parents, let's quit acting like things aren't happening. Things are happening. The world's moving faster. The world's so small. It's just... Don't let your kids be victims. Help them to become overcomers through Jesus Christ. And you do that by we make people overcomers in Jesus Christ by teaching them the Word of God in the Bible. We're going to make people overcomers in the world by teaching them about the things of the world and how to be smart about those things and overcome those. You never learn faith by putting your head in the sand, and you're never going to learn how to live life in this world by putting your head in the sand. You're just going to get sand in your hair, and that's no good, okay? So come back and join us. We'd love to have you. You can always support us at Patreon and become a partner or a sponsor of the show. And as always, if you don't have a church home and you're in Southern Illinois, we'd love to have you at 10 o'clock on Sundays. Wednesday at 6:30. Community Faith Church is our host site for On the Doc. And you can always find out more if you're anywhere in the world. You can watch us at coftv.com. We have an embedded viewer, as well as our Facebook and YouTube pages are there. You can watch us under the Community Faith Church channels. Go back and check us out. We'd love to have you at Community Faith Church. Again, ladies, thank you so much. Haley, thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing everybody back at our Walk Away. Listen, Walk Away Part 4, our roundtable discussion. We'll see you soon. I hope you enjoy the podcast. I'm Pastor Troy.